Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to speak today. I'm really glad somebody else raised the Brexit question and got the Brexit question, because actually it's very, very meaningful for a lot of what I'm going to talk about for the next 15 minutes. I'm afraid that it is just me today. My colleague Kate Bushby, who's one of our PIs across the way, couldn't be here due to family situation, but she sends her best wishes, so I'm going to do both parts of this presentation. So actually the title there, I'm talking about rare diseases in Newcastle, but I'm covering quite a specific part of this, because one of the things that I always learn when we have these sort of sessions up here is actually how many amazing things are happening in so many different rare diseases across Newcastle. And I think that, especially with the Brexit situation, in the coming months and years, we have to get even better at doing things like this and bringing together, all the different experts and our brilliant patient population to really make the most of what we do up north here and what kind of activities we've been leading. So I want to just tell you for literally about a minute or two about the centre that I'm part of, which is just the other side of this building, which is the John Walton Muscular Dystrophy Research Centre. And then I want to explain a bit about how we moved or rather broadened our portfolio to position ourselves as leaders in the rare disease field per se, and to try and get really actively involved in policy, both for healthcare and to promote research across all conditions. So our centre, this is our mantra. We're performing world-class translational research to bring diagnosis and therapy to patients with neuromuscular diseases. So neuromuscular diseases was and remains our bread and butter business. And these are our PIs. We have our interim director, Walton. We have Professor Bushby, who I'm here replacing today. We have Professor Horvath in the audience, or she was a second ago. And we have Professor Hans Lockmuller. And this is some of our large team in the John Walton Centre across the road. We have about 90 of us at the moment. And we're all about putting the patient at the heart of all of our activities. We're about trying to do world-leading research and actually really bring that translationally from bench to bedside and actually back again. So just very quickly some stats about the areas that we push forward. So we have our clinical area, our diagnostics, research, basic research, networking, and clinical trials. And this is quite a lightning fast tour, so if you have more questions about these points, then please do come up to me or a colleague in the networking. So our clinics, so we have clinics all across the north of England for all neuromuscular diseases. We see over 2,500 patients a year, and these are very much multidisciplinary clinics. We have experts who go out into the communities, into schools. We also are one of 4 centres, part of the highly specialised service for rare neuromuscular conditions. And so we do 50 multidisciplinary clinics a year. Around 200 patients come from all across the UK for these specialised, very specialised clinics. We have a diagnostic lab, so we have diagnostic advice, and we process around 200 muscle biopsies, 600 DNA samples, and muscle MRI is a really important technique that we're really pushing forward in terms of diagnostic potential of doing MRIs. Basic research, and we've heard a bit about this in other disease areas this morning, but essentially the goal here is it's about identifying new genes that will cause neuromuscular diseases, understanding how they work, how they impact, and also developing advanced therapies like the AONs, the antisense oligonucleotides, which some of you will be familiar with. This little circle down here, you may just be able to read it. This is the networking team, and actually this is the team that I am part of. We're kind of a catch-all, so we work very closely with all of these different areas, and this is really where our international and national collaborations come in. So this encompassed activities like running projects, doing setting up registries, and doing policy work at the European and international level, which is what I want to talk about for the rest of this presentation. Oh, this is just a nice slide to illustrate our clinical trials, which we're really proud of. You can see when we started back in 2005, we were sort of running one clinical trial for a particular neuromuscular disease, which is Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And all these dark blue trials that you see across the years, these are all Duchenne-based. But we have branched out more and more and more to lots of other neuromuscular diseases, all of which, of course, are rare diseases, very complex conditions. So actually, we're now more like 32 in 2017. So this colourful slide actually needs a little bit of updating, but this shows a lot of the collaborations and a lot of the initiatives, particularly the European funded initiatives that we've been involved with over the last decade. So a lot of our activities really started with a big grant to set up a network of excellence in the neuromuscular field. And this is the Treat NMD network that many of you will be familiar with. The team who led on this under FP6 have been really successful in keeping it going under their own steam without that EU funding, which is an important lesson, I think, for us in the future. But actually, on the back of this, we ended up, I think, our PIs and the experts working with them have really succeeded in getting many other grants relating to neuromuscular diseases. So wherever you have an NMD, that's a neuromuscular related trial. But increasingly, we've actually moved alongside that to look at initiatives which are not dedicated to any particular condition, but are much more about working with European partners and global partners to sort of lay the groundwork to help research to happen better, faster, but also to improve healthcare and access to higher quality healthcare for people with rare diseases. I'm going to skip through this slide. This is just a few of the logos for some of the initiatives that I want to give you a very quick whistle-stop tour about, but also to say that actually on this side of the slide there are so many large global initiatives that some of you will be familiar with that we work with daily and that help us to do the work that we do. So initiatives like Orphanet in Paris, the IRDIG, which is the International Rare Disease Research Consortium. So, RD Connect. RD Connect is one of the 3 projects that I really wanted to highlight to you. RD Connect began in 2012. It's a 6-year initiative. It's actually a globally reaching initiative. It's funded under FP7 to a tune of 12 million euros, and our coordinator is Professor Lockmuller. RD Connect is all about facilitating rare disease research by linking up the disparate sources of data. So we all know that data is extremely precious and very rare in rare diseases, but actually we have more of it than we think, but it's often siloed in all sorts of different places. So RD Connect is about creating infrastructure, building platforms and tools to help people make diagnoses and find patients and link those different data sources. The second area I want to talk about is the policy work for rare diseases, and I'm going to cover this very quickly. From Newcastle, Kate Bushby has led 2 major joint actions. The joint action is just a funding mechanism that the European Commission provides to help different experts and patients and politicians work together. So we led a project called the USAID Joint Action. This was 5.5 million. And what we did was we supported quite a high-level political committee of experts across Europe, made up of member state representatives. We worked on all sorts of different topics, from national plans and strategies, to social services and support, to coding, to registries. And we, the team here in the Joint Action, we did the groundwork and the research to come up with lots of sets of recommendations. So not hard law, but soft law, that countries can then take home and implement. And actually the UK is an excellent example of this. It's largely because of this work that we have a national strategy and national plans here. That project gave way to the current Joint Action, which is RD Action. Here, again, we're increasing our work to try to increase the visibility of rare disease activities across Europe. So you can check out our website. We collate information from all the different member states. They're nearly all there at the moment. And you can find out what each country is doing around registries, whether they have a national plan, how many orphan medicinal products and drugs are available, etc. But the big piece of work that we've been pioneering across the last 6 years from Newcastle is how we can actually get better networking going in the rare disease field. And this has culminated in a new innovation in healthcare and research. That's why I wanted to highlight it to you today. It's a concept of a European reference network, which some of you will have heard of. I'm going to give you a 2-minute lightning stop tour of what an ERN is. So a European reference network, an ERN, is a network connecting centres like this, centres of expertise in rare diseases. Not just rare diseases, but also areas where actually, highly surgical procedures, where there's a lack of patients, a lack of expertise, and you have to really come together and collaborate. The concept was grounded in the Cross-Border Healthcare Directive. It's legally enshrined. And the key thing about European reference networks is that they're not projects. They're designed to sit alongside the normal healthcare systems, but they're permanent in theory. At the heart of the ERNs is the concept that expertise will travel rather than the patient. So what you have is, as of the end of last year, you have 24 ERNs across Europe. Together, across all the networks, they're very broad in focus, there is supposed to be a home for every rare disease and then for every rare disease patient. And the main activity of these networks will be the coming together of experts virtually through telemedicine tools to enable consultations on the best way to advise the patient, the best way to diagnose them, the best kind of management, and also to promote clinical trials or clinical research that they might want to get involved with. So the reason I'm talking about these here today is that the ERNs, although they have a primary focus on care, they also have a responsibility and a duty to conduct world-leading research. So they actually bring both halves of this together. The networks were formally launched in March. This is a photograph of some of our 24 coordinators. And this is our colleague Katie, who I am talking with today, and this is Luca Sangiorgi, who leads the Rare Bone Network, which we do not lead, but we are an important member of. So very lastly, the point I want to make about the ERNs is that not only did we work behind the scenes to help come up with this concept and to put some meat on the bones of what an ERN is and how it can benefit patients, but we've actually ended up leading 3 of these networks here in Newcastle. The UK leads 6 of the 24 European reference networks, which is a huge accolade. But Newcastle as a city, that's more than any city, any centre, anywhere else in Europe. So we lead the Neuromuscular ERN. This is coordinated by Kate Bushby, but you're going to hear about this in one of the lightning interventions later. The second that we lead is on rare immunodeficiency, autoinflammatory and autoimmune diseases. And again, this is quite a large network. We have 24 different centres, 24 healthcare providers in 10 member states. And the third one that we lead is on rare liver diseases. And again, we have 28 members across 10 countries. You have all these slides later so you can visit all these sites and find out for yourselves what the current priorities are for each of the networks. In addition to leading 3, we are also members of a further 3, so the BOND, which is the bone disorders, we're a member of the rare pulmonary diseases, and we're a member of the rare kidney diseases. So these are my last points that I want to end on, why this is such an important thing for Newcastle and why it's important for patients. ERNs are brand new, but they really are the first time that we've ever had this kind of pan-European collaboration in healthcare. We do have pan-European collaboration in research, but we've never had it for care. So what ERNs do is they're the ultimate equaliser for patients. It means that if you're not lucky enough to live right next to an expert centre, which is the best in Europe for your condition, your specialists, your doctors can nonetheless form links using these shared tools, using shared registries, shared systems, to get the best possible advice on your condition and how to take things forward. I think the exciting things about them is that they have a really comprehensive coverage. So this isn't just about the strongest diseases getting stronger. So for the Neuromuscular network, it's not just about Duchenne, it's about all neuromuscular diseases, including the ones which haven't had so much focus to date. There's huge potential of these networks to increase and improve our diagnostics, to support and stimulate use of registries and biorepositories. There's huge potential for clinical trials and for industry involvement. But actually, the biggest threat to all of this is exactly what the lady mentioned earlier, which is the Brexit issue, because it's taken about 10 years to get to the point where we now have these 24 networks launched. A quarter of them are led from teams here in the UK. And it's really a difficult situation for all of us to get to this point and to think, how can we actually continue to collaborate? Because there are ways we can collaborate around research, even if we are no longer a member state. But for things like healthcare, if we start to unpick the cross-border healthcare directive, which is what entitles each of us to get care in another country, it's going to be very difficult to actually sustain some of these initiatives. So I think the more we can come together as Newcastle and the North, but actually more and more as UK rare disease experts, the more we have to do that to try and lobby for the best possible deal for us and for our communities once we come out of Europe. So, thank you.